What's going on, everyone? So, Chris Paul appeared to announce his retirement, right? He basically said they asked him, how much longer do you think you're going to be playing? And he said, at least, no longer than a year, which means this would be his last year. Um, I think it's very unlikely, I want to start there, that Chris Paul would stay with the Spurs. Supposedly he wants to go to one of the LA teams. I don't think he goes to the Lakers. Maybe the Clippers bring him in. Supposedly the Suns or the Clippers are like the two most likely. There's other teams that maybe could use him. We'll see. The problem is he wants to start. And I don't know how many teams, maybe Phoenix. Phoenix could probably use a point guard, right? But then what are you going to do? Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Jalen Green? Like, that's a small front. I don't know how that really works. But, look, Phoenix hasn't really made the best decisions in the last few years. So, maybe they would do something like that. I would love Chris Paul to stay with the Spurs. I was screaming for Chris Paul to go to the Spurs last offseason, right? Because I thought it made a ton of sense. He could go there, get paid a little more than he probably would anywhere else, right? Which I think the Spurs could do again. Like, hey, let's get you a bag. We'll play you some minutes, right? You're going to be in a reserve role regardless, right? I do think the Spurs are probably going to trade Devin Vassell at some point, stuff like that. You could argue, like, where do you fit in Chris Paul, right? But to me, it's just kind of like, hey, come in, get your money, more than you would anywhere else, because anywhere else you're probably getting a vet minimum, right? You're probably not starting anywhere else. Come in and be a mentor to these guys, and then maybe even branch them out into like coaching. If it's like, hey, you want to be coach, you want to be a coach, you want to get into coaching, maybe we, have this could be a foot in the door for you. Maybe you can kind of be that extension coach. Like Jared Dudley is a great example, right? In that 2020 season with the Lakers, right? He was like the player coach, right? He was like the extension of the coach. He was a guy that was there just to be that guy. He played minutes here and there, and he had some moments and stuff like that. I think Chris Paul could give you more production than Jared Dudley did in that 2020 season for like the Lakers. But I do think that, Chris Paul kind of playing that role, like you saw with Jared Dudley, immediately moved into a not with the Lakers, but with like Dallas, and now he just went to a new team. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's starting to work up the ranks. And before you know it, he'll end up being a head coach probably, 2-3 years, if that, right? And it's because he bought into that role. He played that role. Like, if I'm the Spurs, I'm going to Chris Paul. If I'm Pop, I'm like, hey, like, what is your goal post NBA? Do you want to get into coaching? Do you want to just like, chill and relax? I mean, even if you want to take a year or two off, right? Come here, kind of, help mentor and be familiar with these young guys, put you in a coaching role. Right? Like, Chris Paul, say what you want about Chris Paul. He is one of the greatest basketball minds ever. Like, the guy is, relentless, wants to win, just he's a competitor. Right? And this young Spurs team, they need somebody like that. Do you know how good Chris Paul would be for, like, one of the concerns with Dylan Harper is his lack of court vision at times. Right? Like, even, like, there were entire, like, breakdown articles and stuff about Dylan Harper. One of the things was like his decision, like the way he sees the court at times. He's not seeing the full court, right? Like his playmaking, decision making, right? That needs to be worked on. He's young, coming out of college. Most college guys are like that. You know who'd be great at kind of helping him see the court in ways that nobody else really does, except for maybe a handful of people in the history of the league? Chris Paul. Chris Paul come in and really kind of show Dylan Harper, like, the full picture, really open his eyes. I wear glasses. You know what it's like when it's blurry, and then I put on these glasses. It's like, wow, it's crystal clear. I think Chris Paul could do that for Dylan Harper, right? Chris Paul could, boom, it's a whole new world. Like, jump on my magic carpet. Let's go, right? Like, it's one of those things where I think he'd be really good for Dylan Harper, right? For Stephon Castle. Like, I think he'd be really good for the guards on this team and really kind of helping them continue to grow and develop as young players, right? Like, look at what he did for the Spurs even last year, right? Like, he's everywhere he's gone, every team he's ever gone to, they have a better win percentage because he has that impact on teams. He accounts for games that you probably wouldn't have won otherwise, especially close games, tight games, stuff like that. He's a guy that I think would be very good. Problem is, I don't know if he would accept that role. I don't think he would, right? Because he wants to play. Right? One of the reasons he went to the Spurs was because the Spurs agreed to start him and wanted him and basically pay him. Like, it was just like, hey, if I'm gonna be away from my family and all that stuff, I might as well go to a team where I'm gonna get to play the most minutes possible, start every game, so on and so forth. And to his credit, he did. He started all 82 games. He played a big role for the Spurs. But I if not hope, because I want to see him, hope's the wrong word, because I want to see him have success. Like, if he can go be a starter somewhere and go cook, like, go get it, right? But I don't know how many teams would be willing to do that. And I don't know how many options there will be for him to do that. So if options kind of start thinning out, right? Like, I don't hate. It's like, hey, like, yeah, you could go to these teams and go come off the bench and stuff, but like, come here. And also, to me, I kind of present it as like, we can also help you set up your future, right? Like, if this really is your last year, whether it ends up being or not, right? Like, we can help you in your future in a post-NBA era. Where do you want to go? If you just go to one of these, yeah, you could go and jump on a contender and try to ring chase, and yeah, you'll get a ring, but you see it many times. Like, that ring doesn't count the way as if he was the main guy. Right? It's a ring's a ring, but it's very different when you're, one of the 3-4 guys on the team and you're now like the 7th or 8th guy on a team, right? Like, yeah, it'd be great for him to win a ring, but it's just, honestly, also too, like, if I was Chris Paul, and this is just me, is it even like worth winning a ring right now? Because right now, Chris Paul will be forever in those conversations of, is he the best player to never win a ring? Right? Guys like him, James Harden, Charles Barkley, right? There's a lot of guys. But he's in that kind of category and he's in that conversation. If he goes a rings chase, he's no longer in that conversation. Right? So eventually you see a lot of guys that kind of fade out because they're not in that, like, that's like a category in which people talk about and discuss and debate and shows and stuff. So your name kind of continues to live on, where like eventually you just kind of become another guy, right? So, you go to a team like the Spurs, be a mentor, help build something, right? Look at what he did with OKC and SGA. SGA to this day talks about and credits Chris Paul for what he did for him in his career, and still works out with Chris Paul, and every summer goes in with him and stuff like. I think Chris Paul would be great. Again, I think it's unlikely. It's more kind of conversational video than it is anything else. But I'd love to see Chris Paul kind of stick around, be a piece, right? Like, get your bag, get your money. I get it, right? But Spurs can offer that. Spurs can give you more than probably anyone else would. Spurs can still going to get minutes, still going to get time, still going to get opportunities. You might not get as much. You might not get as much as you would on other teams. Like, if I'm the Spurs, I'm not promising them anything. Like, last year, they promised them to, like, the Spurs' detriment in a lot of ways, right? Like, you go and get De'Aaron Fox, and you're starting De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul alongside each other. It made no sense. Neither guy can properly play the two, right? Both guys are best as a point guard in the point guard role and position. But the Spurs wanted to honor what they promised Chris Paul. And I get you're not winning a championship or anything, but things change. It's like, dude, like, we didn't, like, when we signed you, it was never even a thought we were going to get De'Aaron Fox, right? Now we end up with De'Aaron Fox. Like, things change, plans change. So I just think if you're honest with them, it's like, hey, yeah, you can go and ring chase, or yeah, you can go and do whatever, or you can come to a team, help be a mentor, help be a big fixture on this team, help kind of grow something great in which you'll continue to get credit for. If he helps take, Stephon Castle take significant strides in a year too, and helps Dylan Harper start to come into his own, and those two guys start talking about him the way that SGA talked about him, guess what? He's going to get a ton of credit. He's going to, like, all of a sudden, again, things that really have an impact on the league, right? Like, that's kind of at least how I would present it. But again, I think it's unlikely. However, I think it'd be really good for the Spurs. I really do. I think he would be fantastic, especially now that you got Dylan Harper. But anyways, always, this is a discussion. Pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me not. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Now subscribe channel. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.